Welcome back to Locust Motorworks, the channel where we love diving into farming history and checking out some old school John Deeres. Today, we're talking about the 4020 High Crop. We're going to be talking about some history of this tractor and unique features that are on it that sets it apart from a normal row crop tractor. We're also going to be going over the price of these and some that have sold on auction. So let's dive on into this video. John Deere's been producing high crop tractors since the 30s with the release of the John Deere unstyled A's and B's. However, the John Deere G wouldn't get a high crop variant until 1948. These high crops would be fairly rare machines, but John Deere would continue to make high crops up into the 60s. Upon the release of the new generation, you'd see the 4010 high crops come out, which look a lot like the 4020 high crops that we know. These new generation high crop tractors would bring us features that weren't seen on John Deere's previously. The 4010 high crop would get the nickname High Steps, and with 80 horsepower, it was able to tackle tasks in fields in all kinds of tall crops. And then in 1963, you'd see quite possibly one of the most legendary tractors ever produced be released to the public, the John Deere 4020. And this is where we'd get our 4020 high crop variant. So what are high crop tractors used for? Well, being from the Midwest, we don't see them used here often. So let's take a look at the crops that these are used on and what makes them a little bit different from the normal tractors we know. In today's age, you're going to find a majority of the high crop tractors on vegetable farms. The main crops you're going to see these tractors working with is going to be sugarcane, cotton, tomatoes, broccoli, peppers, squash, and asparagus. Today they're mainly used for spraying or harvesting crops, but back in the day at the time of the 4020s, these high crops played a big part in keeping the weeds out of the fields. These high crops would be used cultivating fields, and what made them special is they could cultivate even in the late season. One cool feature that I've heard of people using these high crops for is putting boats in the water in shallower lakes. They're able to drive in way farther than you normally could with a tractor and unhook the boat. So what makes this 4020 a high crop, and what's different on it? Let's look into that. The most obvious thing and self-explanatory is going to be the height. But how does it get this height? Well, it uses some special axles in the rear as well as the front. Now this gives it on average 36 inches of crop clearance, but this can vary on what kind of tires you're running. The rear axle is where you see a lot of change between a row crop 4020. These axles are equipped with final drives, which brings the power down through a series of gears and out to the rear axles. Now these tractors are set up pretty wide from the get-go to be able to reach over the foliage of plants. These give you roughly about 48 inches between the two final drives. A flange type rear axle can also be installed on your 4020, giving you a tread range from 60 to 98 inches. You can start to see some inspiration on these rear axles that would lead us to the axles that are on modern day sprayers. John Deere would show this tractor off as being set up perfect for cultivating, as well as giving you the option to be able to plow with it. This would come from its specialized 3-point. The 3-point lifting arms would be extended to get you closer to the ground, as well as the two draft links hooking up to brackets that were attached to the rear axle. This would be quite a bit different from a row crop, where normally the draft links connect onto the drawbar support, which going through the drawbar support is the load and depth control shaft. Now the 4020 high crop would still feature a load and depth control shaft, but it'd be set up quite a bit different, utilizing specialized brackets that were tied into the 3-point arms. Now let's take a look at these front axles. What made these special, besides just being the high clearance, was the availability for them to oscillate. And this works perfect in wet land where they're using flood irrigation or drainage ditches. And the wider this front end is set, the more mobility it has. 4020 high crops would feature the same hydraulic system that we're used to, giving you the option for 2 outlets in the rear. This tractor would also feature a specialized drawbar and drawbar support. They'd make it fully adjustable, being able to use this tractor for normal everyday tasks as well as being able to remove it fast to go back in the field on high crop work. These tractors would also be equipped with your standard 1000 or 540 PTO. So let's look at some production numbers on these tractors. There were 787 total built in Waterloo, Iowa. With 768 being a diesel engine variant, there was 19 that were produced in an LP gas version, and this is the rarest version of the 4020 high crop. You'd see the option for the 8-speed power shift transmission, as well as availability of the synchro transmission. You'll see a lot of these high crops today with either no fenders and no canopy or a canopy and fenders. In most situations, you're going to find the 4010s and early 4020s with the clamshell fenders on them. And this is why you see the single lights bolted to each side below the steering cowl. One thing that got me wondering with these extra final drives and more iron on these tractors was how much the base weight was going to be. See nearly 1,000-pound base weight increase on the 4020 high crop over the standard row crop. So let me know down in the comments if you've ever been around a high crop tractor. And if you have, let me know what kind of tractor it was and what you did with it. And as always, I want to thank you guys for watching this brief history of the 4020 high crop.